Hi everyone, welcome to another podcast and welcome to the episode number 8 of M for Montessori. My name is Falak Randarian, and if you're new here, let me tell you that I run a Montessori House of Children, a Montessori school in Bangalore called Alet Montessori House of Children, also known as your child's happy space, happy place. And I'm a child therapist, a child counselor, and a parent coach as well. My life revolves around children, and I have an amazing 12-year-old daughter of my own. So, without further delay, let us begin with today's episode. And today's episode, I would be talking about how you can say no in a Montessori way, or is there a Montessori way of saying no? Before we begin and go in depth on this particular topic, let me tell you, there are many parents, in fact most parents that I meet who are exploring Montessori think that Montessori means complete and absolute freedom, which is far from truth. It is not correct, and it is an assumption that people make around Montessori. Freedom and independence is extremely important in a Montessori environment, that's true. But this freedom comes with guidelines, with limits, with responsibilities, which are age appropriate and which are based on how the child has developed and what is the kind of freedom the child can get without putting the child in danger or in a situation that he or she will regret later, or the parents might regret. So there are limits which are defined, and within those limits the child gets freedom. The second thing is that with this concept of absolute freedom that the parents think Montessori gives, they also assume that Montessori parents are basically permissive parents who agree to everything their child says. Their world revolves around the child, like the child is the sun and the parents are the planets moving around the particular child. Well, this is also incorrect, because as a parent, it's your responsibility to raise your child in a safe environment, ensure that they develop well, and ensure that they have the value systems and the beliefs that you as a family trusts or believes in or agrees to. If you give complete freedom to the child, it will backfire eventually. So there are moments, no matter how good a parent you are, there are moments where you will have to say no to your child and keep your foot down. That can be for your safety, for the child's safety, the safety of the environment, safety of the people around, anything. But that no is a very important part of your parenting journey. Unfortunately, if you keep on saying no to your child, the value of that no decreases. So firstly, when you want to communicate that it is something that is out of limits, you have to say it in a positive manner with another option that can be followed instead of that thing that is not allowed. And thirdly, you have to give a valid reason. So for younger children, for instance, if you have a toddler or a preschooler, when they are shouting, you can say, we use indoor voice in this environment. Now, when you say indoor voice, you have to model that indoor voice as well, which is extremely important. So if you're shouting, you cannot expect your little one to speak in a very professional, in a very calm and composed manner. No, because children learn from what happens in the environment around. So you can tell him or her in a very calm, composed manner. After you go down to his or her level and maintain eye contact, tell him or her that we do not run, we try to use walking feet. In fact, don't say we do not run, we can say shall we use our walking feet, please? And then you can add up that because we don't want to step off on anything that is in our way which might harm us or anybody else. So let us all walk using our walking feet. Then you have to model the same thing. You have to be conscious that you're using your walking feet and you're speaking to them in a tone that you want them to speak to them. So for instance, if you tell them that it's good to use the word please when you're requesting something. Now that is a thing that you can't tell them so often. You have to show them around, right? So it is something that modeling needs to be a part of your parenting journey. And just by saying no, you're making the child become resistant. But when you model, when you use your calm, composed voice and communicate clearly in an age-appropriate manner what you're trying to tell the child, give them another option, then that no is said in a situation which is a win-win for the child as well as the parent. As the children grow, the reasoning which they deserve a reasoning when you're telling them no, they deserve it, so you can't ignore that. The reasoning becomes more elaborate. When you say that this is not appropriate, you give them a space to make their own judgments. So ensure to do that. Don't force your opinions on them, because it will again go in a negative zone and your child will rebel against you, especially if they are in their preteens and teens. So it's extremely important to list down what are the things that are absolutely not acceptable in your household. Number 2, discuss this with the other family members. Number 3, communicate it to your child. And as the child grows, the frequency of this being communicated can be reduced, but at a younger age, it has to be more, almost on a weekly or bi-weekly basis, if you're just starting your respectful parenting journey and trying to understand how to say no. So you have your non-negotiables, you've communicated. You also need to analyze, what if this situation comes, how will I handle myself? Again, then you communicate it to your child on a regular basis based on his or her maturity level and age. Next is implementation. Do not try and give them any false threats, because they backfire again. So if you're saying your time to come back home is this, and if you come back beyond this, then unfortunately these are the privileges which will be taken away from you. This is for older children, so ensure that you follow through. For a younger child, you can say, in this environment or in this house, we do not shout, we use our talking voice. You say this in your talking voice, and when they don't listen to you, they're constantly shouting. That is when you can have a consequence which is age appropriate and developmental appropriate. So always follow through. Don't give them false threats, because your child will eventually catch up and stop listening to you. I hope you don't want that. So yes, no is important. Saying it is important, but how you say it, that's where the key difference lies between your child listening to you and not listening to you. So you need to decide what you're going to do. Until we meet next week, take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.